This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Facility Plan 2019 for SHE03, and we will start the meeting with introducing ourselves.
I'm Raj Dami. I'm the accounting analyst here, and I help everybody out with a little bit of everything, especially stuff that concerns AIM.
Amber Leach with Policy Planning Analyst, and my duties are to work with the district on documentation and information for today's facility plan meeting.
Charlie Kaufman. I do all the reports and do all the background data information for the facility plan. Bob Herzog. I'm the Northeast Regional Project Manager and the project manager in charge of this district.
All right. Okay. District?
All right, well, you have Charles Oski, superintendent of the district. In the background here, you'll see Greg. There, now you can see Mr. Rohr.
Okay.
And then Jay Burr just walked in and figured out how cold it is as the maintenance supervisor and walked out, so I think he's working on the heat.
Well, we will hopefully be able to relay information to him as we go through here if it's relevant to him.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. And as we go through today's facility plan, I do appreciate all the hard work that you guys have done in working with me in preparation for today's meeting. And please, if there is something that you want to add more to or make more of a comment on, please interrupt and we will continue on. As it's nice that we're able to do some work on the front end of this so that it really does make this meeting well ran and very informational. We'll start off with tracts and deeds, and thanks to Charlie Kaufman, he's been able to work with Google Earth as well as the GIS sites in the districts to really get back and identify tracts and deeds and get that into our AIM system correctly. As you see here, we've got the graphic above. We get into the next thing that you've already validated, and I'm going to just blow this up just a tad. With the next thing we'll bring up is the tracts and deeds themselves, and you have validated that this information is correct. You currently have no land leases. Land disposition, you have nothing at this time, but you do remind us that you had land acquisition. You did purchase the adjacent land in Claremont campus and are using that to build the track. The purchase was with capital construction money as well as general funds. And this land purchase is captured in the AIM database at this time.
Okay.
So we get into that property profiles, and again, you validated this information is correct. We didn't have any other changes, and you also provided the other building lease, and you see here we've got that information illustrated. Currently you have no enhancements listed for your district, and there's no plans of enhancements going through this next year. So the database reflects and is updated at this time on that. So we get into actually the district appropriations update. And the very first project that we need to talk about is that 2712, which we've already mentioned a little bit prior to this. I know the other two facility or project or capital projects listed here for the fire sprinkler and as well as the track, we've already said the projects are in motion. They will remain open and will be reviewed in the next year if we can revert any remaining funds. But let's go ahead, district. Would you like to talk about the 2712 with the boiler that you've got going on?
Yeah, so the boiler conversion project, like always, had a lot of, what do I say, dead bones that came up when we did that. But the conversion is complete and it's been very successful. Now what we're having a hard time doing, even though we've changed most of the control valves throughout the whole building, is like what you see here today. We got part of the building that is coats, gloves, and stocking caps, and So it's just getting that system to where it is effective throughout the whole building. So, for the most part, the high school classrooms stay fairly well. This morning, the elementary classrooms were good, but again, the elementary bathrooms and the first aid station are all super cold. So we are just having some of those issues that I feel still need to be resolved with the kind of money we put into the system. So.
Okay. Bob, how do you see this with the remaining funds that they have and where they stand with this boiler issue? Are we able to address these new issues or these issues that have popped up with that remaining money, or is that remaining money accessible to address these issues?
Well, we can certainly take a look at it. Has any of the engineers been out there to take a look at it, find out what's going on with this thing?
We'll probably get somebody out again and put it straightforward. We need to fix this problem. So.
Yeah, if specifically, if there's work that's been done out there and it's not performing the way it should be, that's on the responsibility of those, both on the design side and the contractor side, to find out why we're not getting heat to those areas. If that was part of the original design, the original construction. If there's other elements in there that need to be augmented that the design team can come up with, or the mechanical contractor can come up with, we can certainly look at utilizing the other funds. But that would have to be a change order to that particular project. So there are avenues for us to go forward, but we need to identify what exactly is the issue.
So do we have to actually go through the engineer, or can we just get somebody to come out at a heating company and give us a quote on what needs to be fixed?
That would be a separate contract. And we would, again, first of all, we need to get somebody out there to identify what the problem is. And that would be, the preferred way to do it is use the engineer that you had that was on that, because there's some culpability on that team that did that the first time. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do, that's an onus on them. So.
All right, we'll have that conversation afterwards.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. We can get into that a little further.
So I'm going to just say district will work with project manager to resolve.
For potential solutions.
For potential solutions, okay. Okay.
Are you available a little bit later on today for me to call you?
Bob, I'll just talk with projects engineer and Jay and Greg, and I'll have a conversation, and we'll see which direction we want to go. Then I'll get a hold of you if I need to.
That'd be super.
Okay. And I'll say that we'll leave project open until later determined.
Okay.
Okay.
Works for me.
Right. And as you see, I'm attempting to type notes in, so please correct me if you see something wrong or that it isn't illustrating exactly what we're saying. I'm going to right on into security. I hear we got a little bit back.
Yeah, you're starting to get choppy.
Okay. Did you guys change something?
We've not changed anything on our end, but
okay.
Yeah, we got a feedback. If you could mute your speaker, unless you're speaking, that might help.
Okay. So go ahead, Bob, on the security side, if
Okay.
you would, please.
I have a prepared speech here based on our security funding that I'd like to run through with you. In 2019, the school district facility plan meeting, speaking of, so that's what we got going on here. So the original funding for the security was done in 2014 under the House Enrolled Act number 0056. That was the House Bill 0042 for $9 million. Funding of projects was defined under the 2015 Senate Enrolled Act number 0089, and that was Senate File 0057. The current budget request that we have is in the Joint Appropriations Committee draft bill. It's currently unnumbered and drafted on December 2018. That was for fiscal year 20, $4.9 million additional proposed for security projects, and that was for fiscal year 21 to 22. 10% of major maintenance for security has been discussed in select committee to not be in the fiscal year 21 to 22, unlike the 10% enhancement funds, which are continued 10% security major maintenance is not assured in the future. Overexpending security funds may be a district concern if funding is not continued into the next biennium. The previous 10% security funding major maintenance was under the 2016 House Enrolled Act number 0012. That was for fiscal year 17 to 18. And that quote is that school district may expend up to 10% of the amount distributed under the major maintenance program for the period commencing July 1st, 2016 and ending July 1st, 2018 for safety and security building and facility needs. In the 2018 House Enrolled Act number 0062 for fiscal year 19 to 20, a school district may expend up to 10% of the amount distributed under this program for the period commencing July 1st, 2018 and ending July 30th, 2020 for safety and security building facility needs. District written requests for CAPCON funding revisions will be honored. Moving funds between the project appropriations must be in writing and acknowledge no backfill funding is guaranteed on that. SFD will honor change agreements made by the SFD that are captured in a written record. The goal of security funding is intended to give each district an equal opportunity to provide consistent security standards for Wyoming K-12 schools, and this was included in the October 2014 report. The School Facilities Commission and Select Committee for School Facilities have continued to identify concerns with the slow deployment of funds. Other potential funds available to school districts these are ones that are not SFD administered. Homeland Security funding, you need to contact your local Department of Homeland Security for available funds. There's also available DOJ and private grants available, and these are on an irregular basis. Regular basic district searches are advised for those particular funding sources. Just a list of our security conferences, past and present. October 2017, we had that at the Ramada Inn Convention Center in Casper. March of 2018, we had that at Central Wyoming College in Riverton. October of 2018, we had that at the Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne. And for this year, 2019, dates and locations have not been announced as of yet. We don't have anything specific on that. So, in looking at your security funding that we have remaining, we want to know what can we do to help you move forward with the expenditures on some of these. You need to turn your mic back on if you want to talk to us. Did we lose you?
So the total amount is around 18,000.
That is correct, $18,134.64.
So, when we requested to use some of that money for the interior locks, we got denied because the locks were just specifically for exterior doors. I guess I really have a concern with how we can't make a decision based on combining that money, what's best for us as a whole district. Am I correct in saying that? It has to be specific to each one of those items?
Well, here's how it works. This particular report that we've got in front of us was done by FEA, which identified at certain schools for certain amounts of money. With the new security money that you've been granted, it's 10% maintenance security money that can be spent on anything in the district. It does not have to conform underneath these particular guidelines that we have for the initial $9 million expenditure. So that's the difference.
If we had 10% major maintenance, because that's part, it's not in addition to, it's 10% of our major maintenance.
That is correct.
If we were to take 24,000 plus the 18,000, we're going to be close to $42,000 for security.
Okay.
But again, but just coming back to have a conversation, when we did the things we did, we have door locks on all of our schools. We have security locks. One of the things we talked about is security-wise that we needed to switch out all of our locks internally so that teachers could lock them from within the door if there was an active shooter. So that $1,000 there we couldn't use. So we ended up using money for locks internally. The main entrance control systems, we have $6,000 for that, but our systems currently work. So why would we need to change? Our secure vestibules, we do, $423 is going to get somebody to drive out and tell us what we need to do. That's not going to go very far for any kind of security. And we can't use that money to fix the door systems. If there is something, the two-way communication, absolutely. We're looking into doing something there. Just with that and the visitor management system, we're a small school district, and I really would struggle spending the state money on a system that, just to say for the sakes of spending it, that has to be maintained. So again, each one of those categories, if I could combine all that into a two-way communication system, or our next objective is to upgrade our PA system throughout the school for emergencies. My concern is, why can't we do what's best for the district and combine all of those into one and use $18,000 to do what we feel is best for our district and not according to what those evaluators told us, and then we get a very minimal amount of money to even do things that might not even need to be fixed.
The simple answer to that is this is what was accepted in the legislation. We can't deviate from what was assigned in here. We can combine one of the projects and utilize $18,000, but you can't take that $18,000, just use it with current security money as separate buckets of money.
But he's talking, or Charles, if I heard it correctly, what you would like to do is, and just in a smaller version, if I hear this correctly, you really can't use visitor management system money. So you would like to move that money towards your two-way communication, correct? And then work that project there. As a small example. Am I gathering that you do have a project that you could use that money towards two-way communication?
So I have to turn you on and off because I can't hear you when you're chopping, but you're absolutely right. If two-way communication allows us, if that money can be used for the replacement of the PA system throughout the school, I would like to combine all those into that one category for communication with, for an active shooter, and put that $18,000 towards a two-way communication piece, which would benefit us, because other than that, that money is going to be untouched. But I also need to have the approval as we go out and look for bids. Can we use the replacement of our current PA system as two-way communication for school safety?
Bob, are they okay?
We need to look at that a little bit closer because we have to be very careful about what the definition of two-way communications is
Okay.
as far as the security guidelines.
But once they work through that with you, are they going to still be able to write a letter and move that money from one bucket to the other to the appropriate project that you guys determine that you could use?
The two-way communications is available at the junior, senior high school, or the Claremont Elementary School, the K-6. That's where we have two-way communications.
That K-12.
Yeah, and our Claremont, Arvada, the new K-6. That's where those monies, that's where we have a category that we could add monies to. But we have to be, there's a difference in between two-way communications and mass notification systems.
Okay.
They are different.
Okay.
So we can't create a category.
Okay. So what we could do here is work through a process and find out if there is a viable project that they need done. And once that project's worked out with you, then once that's identified as a good project, they could work with you to address the money and move the money at that time after that project was established.
Right, yeah, the difficulty being, like I said, is if it is not an identified project on this list, I can't use that $18,000.
Okay.
If it's mass notifications, it's not on the list and it has to be done with 10% security monies.
Okay, so district, are you okay with at this moment just working with the project manager, Bob, and work through a couple scenarios, make sure that it is a valid project all the way that you are expecting from valid, determined or predetermined areas. And then once you get that figured out, then you could also work with him and then move the money accordingly to accomplish that project.
Well, yeah, we're not going to change our focus on what we feel is important for us here, and then we'll communicate with Bob. But you're exactly right. I'm not going to bluff you or lie to you. It is mass communication. It's communication that's out there. But if the district's going to continue to get dinged for not spending their security money, I just want people to be very realistic. In our small world, I would prefer that they come back and reevaluate us, and we sit down and have a serious conversation about school safety, and that $18,000 that we have there maybe actually be allowed for us to use in our world, not an expert's world from somewhere else, that would be beneficial to our district, and have that hard conversation. Maybe we need to revisit why these were identified as security issues and why we only have so much money in each one of those. Though that would be my suggestion, but we will continue to work with Bob. But it's just going to be very hard to come up with the minimal amount of money for those two-way communication. We're going to put walkie-talkies in that we'll never use. We already got a voice over IEP system for the elementary and the high school. You know, the secured vestibules, we have those all the way around the school. What enhancements can you do? You know, for $423, those are just things all we have to take into consideration. But we will continue to suggest and throw things out as we're making things, and if it fits in one of those categories, that'll be great. But right now, our focus is our fire alarm system and our communication system throughout the schools. So in case of an active shooter, we are able to do what we need to do, or more importantly, even fires or everything that's on our emergency plan. So we've got several things in mind, and we'll just work with Bob, and if that fits into one of those categories, we'll use some of that money. But we're really going to have to just take a look at replacing under major maintenance current systems that have failed or are not working correctly.
And Charles, just to let you know, you're not the only district level of frustration. The original security package was set up, but unfortunately, we don't have any latitude to go in there and change that or transfer money or create another category that would be an issue. If you want to get it addressed, is you're going to have to take that one straight to the legislature, because we have no availability to change those parameters that we've been given.
And I'll be honest with you, I have told many legislators that, and they keep referring back saying, no, we kept getting told that districts just need to spend their money according to what they were told. So I will, I'm not going to change my wording. If they want us to spend money on security, there's several security bills that are out there that are unfunded. Potentially they're going to bring more money and more paperwork to what we're doing that are unfunded. And they keep throwing these numbers back at us that we've funded security and you guys aren't spending it. I don't know where they're getting the impression that school districts are failing on their part to spend the money that they've already given them. They've kind of tied our hands, and you're trying to tell us specifically where to spend the money. And I just find it very hard to spend taxpayers' money on something that's irrelevant or will never be used. So that's just my point of view. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, we have our hands tied on both sides of the fence here, sir.
Yep. So anyway, I think we've discussed that enough. We can probably move on.
Thank you.
That sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead and move into capacity. And as you see here, we've got the district capacity numbers, and I'll let Charlie Kaufman speak on this.
There's really not much to say. I mean, it is what it is. It's done on a location by location basis. And your enrollment this past October 1, 93 students total in your district. So that's the location. That didn't change at all from last year.
Okay.
So just real quick, I just want to emphasize, and I'm being kind of funny when I say this, but if you go back up,
Okay.
I really wish they would use that 237 for capacity, because as we've talked before in the past, there's absolutely no way we would house 237 students. So anyway, just kind of a funny.
We show our enrollment projections right here, and we acknowledge what you pointed out. What this shows is just what our projections going out. And as you see here, we kind of have a steady stream of kindergartners, showing you kind of bounce from that. The lowest you've ever been is 3, but you've been right around 6, 7, up to 9. And then this also shows, if you look at your survival rate as it goes from kindergarten, and then they take the average from kindergarten to first all the way across, you have a little bit of a decline in that. Maybe it's that you possibly could have held some kindergartners back just for another year to let them kind of mature a bit, or you may have a developmental preschool to help kids in that first year of getting used to school. But as you see here, it also gives us the projections out, and you're kind of all the way up and down. Just being a smaller district, 1 or 2 kids could be a great impact on that trend.
It absolutely could.
So it's a little tough, but as you see here, you stay right in that 90 zone. You kind of drop down here in 2014, but you stay within the 90s for your district as a number across the board. Statewide list, we provide this just to kind of have a perspective of what's going across the state. And as you see here, this is the high, medium, and low capacities. And as districts are working through, some are identifying some non-constructive alternatives to address them. Others, we've worked with them going out on Mercers to find other opportunities as well. We do have a note here that the district does have sufficient capacity for the enrollment of the students that you do have. And then on the charter notes, there's no charter school, so we don't have to really discuss that. We get into condition, and we brought in the graphic just to kind of give everybody an opportunity to see and think about the lifespan of a building and the scoring of the FCI. As you see here, we have the statewide list providing the educational buildings, and then a representation of the support buildings through at least 3.2 on both of those. And as you see here, we show both of your your educational and non-educational for the last 2 assessments. And currently you guys do really have buildings that are in good shape as it's represented here. Okay. Any questions on that district?
Nope, I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Next thing I'm going to break into is the major maintenance, and you guys were able to supply and support updating your older work orders with me. We ran and then supplying your new work orders with your project manager going forward, and you're probably continuing to work through work orders. The 680 we've got representing your payment here of the 2018. It shows your ending balance. It shows what you expended. You do have some 8% money, and that was that first rollout of 10% enhancement money. It was just the very first bucket, and we do encourage you to work with the project manager when you're working with your surplus or enhancements. Maintenance, you could utilize this bucket of money first before you use your 10% enhancement money. And then we also show that 10% of security. And again, I just want to emphasize this is not money on top of your balance or major maintenance. This is money that could be used out of that. With that, we have a couple graphics showing last year, 2018. This shows your major maintenance categories against the expenses of how you broke it out for your district. And the next table you'll see shows us not only just the buildings, but the major maintenance category towards that building and the expense against that building. You guys were also able to provide us the chart on the low condition scores. And as you see here, you do not have any ones that were in the last assessment. But as you know, sometimes we do have legislators that ask, hey, are they taking care of their low scoring condition scores? And if that is so, we can pull up this graphic and show them what your plans are to take care of those 1s and 2s, and you were able to represent that. We did pull up and show some 3s, and you were able to address a couple things that you were doing on those as well. So it shows how proactive you are working towards that.
And Amber, just quickly, so we're going to be reevaluated this spring again, correct?
It won't be this spring. 2019, we will go out as a department, and I'll go down to that graphic right here. 2019 will be the fall when we go out and procure a professional service as a department. We will get that set up contract for across the state on all educational and support buildings. Once that is done, we'll go ahead and set up some training the end of March, 1st of April for districts to send those that will be
2020.
I'm sorry, 2020, excuse me, thank you. So next year, 2020, we'll have training set up for 2020, and then that summer we will have, in the 1st of May out into October, the teams will go out for measurements and assessments, and then we will be uploading that into AIM. Okay.
So Charles, it'll end up taking, they'll start assessing in your districts at the end of the school year next year in 2020, and it should take, the FEA, when they get all that, or not FEA, whoever we choose, geez, I gotta, like, sometimes we get a little fixed on that one. Whomever we choose will notify everybody in advance of when they'll be out amongst the districts in the year 2020 here. So
that was a great question. Thank you for asking and having them clarified. Any other questions on that district?
No, I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay. So the next thing you see here represented is the commitment. And in September of last year, the districts were able to apply for the component projects. November, we had a committee that was put together as of district representation, and they were able to rank the component projects. This is still pending commission consideration and will be in front of the commission next week in February. And once they have that consideration, it'll go in front of legislation next fall. They will determine the amount of funding that they will put towards component, will determine how far down the list we can acknowledge projects. And this has been really good for us to place in the facility plans. It assists other districts on projects that they can submit for. The next opportunity again is going to be 2020 that you will be able to apply for component projects. Currently, I have a comment down here just about your major maintenance, that you're maintaining your buildings and with available major maintenance funding. And is there any other comments on components or major maintenance you want to make, guys, or district?
We need to put anything about the fire sprinkler system.
You know, we'll probably look to be applying for sprinklering the 712 building in the next cycle for component projects, which would be 2020, I guess.
Just a quick question, and to make sure I'm on the same page of everybody. Is there already a sprinkling system in that section?
No, the school is compliant with the area separations that exist inside of the school.
Okay, so it does not have a previous system of sprinkler in that area. Okay, and district, I just want to educate you just a bit about component projects. The only thing that you can apply for on component is it has to follow the major maintenance definition in terms of making sure that you have a pre-existing system that needs to be replaced, repaired, or upgraded. And where there's not a system like that, this would be something that you probably have to go towards a possible potential capital project if that's your wishes, or use personal funds. Am I right?
Yeah. Would be considered an enhancement.
Even on the capital note, the way the rules have changed recently with the SOC rule changes is that there's only really two types of projects that we can request going forward, and it's based off of condition and capacity, I guess 3, and suitability, the way they've got it written now. So we used to be able to have flexibility to ask for projects kind of like this, but unless it drives it on those 3 drivers, it's going to be a little bit more difficult going forward on that. Just more for a heads up for everybody on that.
And district, I just want to give you every preparation in terms of what avenues you can go to address the things that you want and need for your school, okay? So I don't want to mislead you on that if that's the choice that you need to go after, what avenues you do have.
All right, thanks for information.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and go into the legislative session here and discuss the bills that are going on. I'm going to turn that over.
Actually, there's been quite a few changes on these. Do you want me to take it, or do you want Raj? You want to take it?
I will just be reading it. Do you want to explain it?
So I can run through them really quick. Actually, House Bill 8, according to Brandon and Dell, failed the other day. So there will not be an increase in the major maintenance multiplier, so that one's out. House Bill 52, Public Works and Contracts. Basically, it's architects have to design for specifications providing for furniture, fixtures, and equipment with a Wyoming supplier. With that, what that means is that they have to write those in there, and if nothing is available quite like that, or then they have the option of having to go from that same supplier in a different, something similar to that. So it's a pretty stringent change to that. House Bill 65, basically when we were formed as a department, the legislature tasked us with a couple of items. One of them was to unify the procurement amongst state agencies, amongst schools, and this actually would work into cities and towns as well. This House bill is aimed to do that. It unifies the procurement advertising to 2 weeks, or a minimum of 2 weeks. Obviously, as the project is more complicated, they can advertise it for longer. Bonding on projects goes up to $50,000. A&E procurement goes also, the formal process would be done at above $50,000. Also, a kind of a little change on that one is that 0 to 24,999, the district can go out and select pretty much whomever they want. Between 25,000 and 49,999, they have to select they have to solicit 3 proposals. And then after the 50,000, it becomes a formal procurement process where they have to advertise and then be able to do interviews and such. School district, also the construction for the school districts will go up to that 50,000 K mark as well. So major maintenance quarterly funding, House Bill 78. Right now, that one actually seems to have legs to be going. Hold on one second. See what my update is on this one. Anyways, on that one, it would be that all major maintenance payments would be distributed on a quarterly basis. So for Greg, the major maintenance payments wouldn't come in 2 payments anymore. It would come in 4 for every quarter. And that would be in effect July 1st, 2020. House Bill 79, School Finance Interfund Loans. This is just a mechanism for the legislature to borrow against the LSRA, the Legislative Stabilization Reserve Account. So not really, I don't know how applicable it is to you guys, but it will affect some of the things in funding. School capital construction, the House Bill 80 did not come out of the House. They actually put it in House Bill 1. And so our supplemental budget now is found in House Bill 1 instead of House Bill 80. But we'll talk about what's in House Bill 1 here in a moment. House Bill 94, construction indemnity provisions. Basically what's going on there is the additional uses of indemnity clauses within all contracts. So I'm not sure of how all the effect on that one. House Bill 108, when it comes to closing out projects, it'll modify the final settlement and payment to contractor procedures, update bond requirements, and requiring that all disputes be taken to the prime contractor's surety bond. House Bill 152, the Wyoming Underground Facilities Notifications Act, as best I understood it, the most recent, is that it is requiring that all notifications can go online, making it so that way people can get it faster. They can also see it more readily. So they're looking to take that to an online presence as well. County zoning our authority, Senate File 49 for private schools. This basically is making it so that private schools are treated like public schools in terms of zoning requirements. Senate File 53, government contracts for labor organizations, basically just prohibit government entities from including specific terms related to labor organization agreements within construction-related contracts. Senate File 57, public records. Basically on this one, this one has kind of taken a few different interesting turns. When they initially did it, it was supposed to be that they were supposed to turn around within 10 days and penalties would be up to a felony if they did not deliver on those record requests. At this point in time, that has been backed down to a $750 fine, and basically that they have up to 30 days unless they can come to a mutual agreement with the persons requesting the public information. Senate File 64, School Safety and Security, the WDE in consultation with Homeland Security, the Fire Marshal's Office, and our department, will look to develop safety standards and procedures for the state. Senate File 74, professional service procurement. Basically, this is a heavier preference for Wyoming firms being utilized. Basically, that you have to give preference to a Wyoming firm, and that 50% of that contract labor should be done within the state of Wyoming. If, for example, there are no available Wyoming firms to provide the service, then you can follow the normal procurement process. Senate Joint Resolution number 1, our state legislature is trying to petition the United States Congress to open up the ability to swap out landlocked lands for different properties, and then the revenues from those lands to be sold and put into the school foundation accounts. Senate File 103, the state capital construction. Basically, this will be the formation of a super committee for the select committee on state construction and school facilities. It'll increase the members that are currently on our select committee of school facilities, I believe, by an additional 4 members. Don't quote me if I'm wrong, they are going to increase that. But basically just requires that both divisions within our department report to that same committee overlooking state construction over the state. Senate File 105, procurement pricing transparency. Basically, that any public entity shall be required by a person submitting a bid or negotiating contract for services or supplies to disclose the public entity the 5 most recent completed or ongoing contracts of a similar type. Senate Joint Resolution 007 actually did not make it out of the Senate side. It failed, so that one's Senate File 137, I believe, also failed. Did not come out. And then House Bill 1 and Senate File 1 are mere bills, but basically that's the that's the general budget for the whole state. So just going down real quick for the supplemental budget. This is what the state, our school facilities is requesting this year in the supplemental. Construction dollars for the Satellite High School in Rock Springs and the John C. Schiffer School in Sheridan 2. Then the reappropriations of dollars. In Congress 1 about 2 years ago, they had 3 replacement modulars placed down for rural ranch schools. There was enough money left over that they need to replace a 4th one, Shawnee, and those dollars will be reappropriated for them to be able to do so. Leases, the Montessori Charter School in Laramie and the past charter school here in Cheyenne will be looking, well, an increase in the Montessori lease to cover the square footage that they're having, and then for the first time, the past charter school qualifies for lease payments from the state of Wyoming, as it has reached all the qualifying points with the Department of Education. The security projects that Bob talked about earlier, the $4.95 million. In that House Bill 1, it states that basically all the old monies will still be tied to that priorities 1 through 6, 8, and 11, and that this new monies, as far as we can tell, would be to open up those security priorities to all 20 identified within the FEA security assessment. Excuse me. And then an increase in the major maintenance for the state. The $1 million is just to cover the increase in the RS means value that has gone up. So that's our budget.
Okay. District, any comments or questions on that section of legislation we've discussed?
I think we're good. Thanks.
Well, thank you guys. Biennium budget requests, and as we go forward, we're talking about at least biennium new prioritized needs index shall be developed by commission, and the needs index shall be based upon which legislation funded remedies shall be determined. Calculations of a relative weights as the scoring tools of possible developing. The needs index shall be 50% weighted to the facility condition, 35 weighting to the facility's capacity, and then 15% weighted towards the educational suitability. Is there any capital projects that you are pursuing or would like to pursue this coming year?
Not that we're aware of, I guess.
Okay. We have the very last topic is unique issues, ideas, and concerns. And District, I'll let you go ahead and speak on these two matters. I know we briefly talked about the fire sprinkler installation in the junior high school, but also that you have some concerns going into the project on the track.
Yeah, no, I mean, just so we're all on the same page. I mean, let's talk about the fire sprinkler system and the PA system. Those are things we're currently looking at upgrading. Then that turns into the sprinkler system. You know, the fire sprinkler system is something that I really think we need to upgrade down the road. So we'll be working with you guys on how to find funding for that. And I support the board in saying this. I mean, we just were required to sprinkler 3 bus barn buildings, but yet we have an educational facility that houses kids. It's a portion of that it's not sprinklered. So we'll be working on taking that and going with there. You know, and the next one, I just know how construction works around here. And as we start going out to bid, we'll be working with Bob and everybody else, but we might have a shortfall on this track project, and that's just kind of unique our concerns that we have at this point. So
that's a pretty good concern on the track. We have
What we got is what we got.
On the track, not so much. It was a capital on that one. On the track was capital, so it would qualify for the contingencies that are available if there are any. I don't know. You have to ask Paul on that one. Well, we'll check. We'll look into it.
We'd have to have that conversation.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that one and kind of look where or not on that one. Make sure that what we can do with that. So, so Bob will talk with Paul and look to try to get an answer for you on that.
okay, other than that, I think we're good. Greg or Jay, you have anything? I would like to take this time to thank Amber and Greg for all their work up to this point, so it went so smooth here today. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Okay. Anything else to be said? Here in the office?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you, District, again for all that you do and all the work that you put in. And we look forward to working with you on these items. And have a great year.
So Amber, with this, what's the next stage? So we print this document, I sign it and send it back to you. What's the next process here?